depend on some kind of interpretation as the gospel, just to look to the word, you trust God, and he's gonna
Right.
what it's gonna be. And there's some stuff we understand, there's way more we don't.
Right. Daniel's a confusing book. The first 6 chapters are pretty straightforward because it's historical stuff that happened in Daniel's life or in Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's life. But starting in chapter 7, you begin getting all these visions, and Daniel's scratching his head, and he says, I'm trembling, and I'm scared, and I fall asleep, and I'm devastated. I don't know how to interpret this stuff. And then the angel comes and gives an explanation, and the explanation is all this veiled numbers and different things, and Daniel's still scratching his head. So we get to the end of the book, and like I said, you can read chapter 11 at your leisure, and you'll see all this conflict that takes place, and then this is going to happen, and this will happen, and this will happen, and it's prophesying future events. Which I understand, I've read, and I'm not prepared to necessarily mention who and where and why, but all these things can be seen in historical documents in chapter 11, extra biblical evidence that this is exactly what happened, in 400 and 300 BC and 290 BC. Of course, Daniel's looking into the future and seeing these things as it's being revealed to him. But it is very complex, the historical unfolding of the events of Daniel chapter 11. But then the time of the end. Now at that time, Michael, this is chapter 12, verse 1, the great prince who stands guard over the sons of your people will arise. There will be a time of distress, because it has never occurred since there was a nation until that time. And at that time, your people, everyone who was found written in the book, will be rescued. Now again, you see this stuff in the book of Revelation. The books are opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. Many of those who sleep in the dust of the ground will awake, these to everlasting life, but the others to disgrace and everlasting contempt. Those who have insight will shine brighter like the brightness of the expanse of heaven. And again, Jesus alludes to these things, and you will shine like stars in the kingdom of my Father. Right? As for you, Daniel, conceal these words and seal up the book until the end of time. Many will go back and forth, and knowledge will increase. Then I, Daniel, looked, and behold, 2 others were standing, one on the bank of the river, and the other on the other bank of the river. And one said to the man dressed in linen who was above the waters of the river, how long will it be until the end of these wonders? I heard the man dressed in linen, who was above the waters of the river, as he raised his right hand and his left toward heaven, and he swore by him who lives forever, and it would be for a time, times, and half a time. And as soon as they finish shattering the power of the holy people, all these events will be completed. So that doesn't give us much of a timeline. I mean, as far as we're concerned, this is all apocalyptic stuff, so it's not all thoroughly explained. As for me, I heard but could not understand, so I don't feel so bad. If Daniel doesn't understand, then Dave doesn't have to understand either. So I said, my Lord, what will be the outcome of these events? He said, go your way, Daniel, for these words are concealed and sealed up until the end of time. I'm not telling you. Many will be purged, purified, and refined, but the wicked will act wickedly, and none of the wicked will understand, but those who have insight will understand. From the time that the regular sacrifice is abolished and the abomination of desolation is set up, there will be 1,290 days. How blessed is he who keeps waiting and attains to the 1,335 days. But as for you, go your way to the end, then you will enter into rest and rise again for your allotted portion at the end of the age. So the resurrection is mentioned here. The end of the age is mentioned here, but it's not real clear as to what's going on. Again, we trust the Lord. He knows what he's doing. And again, I don't mean to be overly trite, or that's not the right one. I don't want to be cavalier in the way I treat these things. By the same token, this is supposed to be an overview. And secondly, by the time you parse all this and give everybody's view and give everybody's understanding and what this guy said, we'd be here for 2 years. So that's an exaggeration, but it does become very complex, and everybody has their argument, everybody has their perspective. And this is not John 3:16 here. This is apocalyptic stuff where you scratch your head and wonder what he's talking about. Whereas John 3:16 is real straightforward. Anybody else have any comments or anything over Daniel? Don't be afraid to disagree or agree or whatever. But anyway, we look at Daniel's visions, we saw all that. The key chapters are chapter 1, of course, which tells about how Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were brought into captivity. Chapter 2 is a key chapter because that kind of sets the stage for Daniel's prophetic abilities and his trust that he earns with Nebuchadnezzar. And also later on, we'll see that he earns the trust of people like Darius. And then chapter 7, which talks about how God is going to displace all other kingdoms at the end of the age. And in a sense, chapters 8 through 12, in a sense, I think, are merely commentary on chapter 7. They flesh it out a little bit more, even though it's very hard to understand. I give you some key verses there. The key people are Daniel, and then Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, and Darius. Key themes developed in the New Testament: the kingdom of God, the Son of